test, the link is still opened, so you feel free to do your test. Once we start recording, we are going to deactivate the link. So if you are still having some outstandings, please do well to cover it up before this coming week. And as usual, once we are done with this very class, we are going to schedule you for this very test. All right. So please keep an eye on your group. Thank you so much. So today we are going to be today's class is going to be about management and leadership in today's organization. That's the topic for today. Management and leadership in today's organization. And at the end of today's class, I believe that you will get to know how to manage your business, and also you'll be able to lead well. So this powerful session will equip you with essential insights into effective management and leadership strategies that are relevant and impactful in today's organization, not only in the local organization, in the modern organization as well. So I believe that our trainer is ready for us today. And without further waste of time, I will be introducing our trainer in the person of our project coordinator, Miss Edith Ugochukwu. Hello, ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right, you're welcome, ma'am. You can take it off from here.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I hope would have more students joining the call. Okay, so Pretty Beauty, good morning. Omo,
Good
good
morning,
morning.
Miss Edie. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson. Good morning to you. I hope we all had a very fruitful and productive week. All right. Just give me
Excellent morning.
Good. Okay, just give me about 2 minutes. And I would
Ma'am,
kick
your
off.
voice is faint. I don't know if anyone can still hear her. Your voice is faint.
Oh, okay. Is my voice really faint from all your ends? I literally
It was
shouted.
louder before, but now it's faint.
Okay. How about now?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, so just give me 2 minutes and I would kick off with this session, please. Okay, great. All right. So just like architects, all right, just like architects' blueprints, architects, they have blueprints for their construction, right, which gives them specifics on what to do. So every leader crafts organizational framework to effectively divide their work, right, to foster a team collaboration, to streamline decision making and the likes. And in today's fast-paced world, with new competitors, shifting customer needs, and the disruptive tech companies, right? The right structure can be the difference between a thriving business and a just surviving business. So we're going to explore key building blocks like division of labor, departmentalization, hierarchy, span of control, and the likes. All right. And I know some of us on the call are business owners, right? So most of what we are going to be discussing today might not be new to you. So feel free to give your inputs, contributions as we go on this ride. So let me quickly pull up my slide. Okay. Please confirm it is visible at your end. Please confirm. Is it visible at your end?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So yes, so we're going to be looking at things like, framework determine how work gets divided, how teams collaborate, how decision flow through an organization, and many, right? So it's also important to emphasize that companies in today's world, right? Companies face constant pressure from new competitors, evolving customer expectations, disruptive technologies. So organizational structure is what helps them to work perfectly. Without an organizational structure, then, like I said earlier, the organization or the business is headed to huge failure. So we're going to be looking at these areas as you see on your screen. Okay, so that's what we call the building block of organizational design. And this simply talks about what are those key areas to consider when building an organizational structure, right? And the areas that should be taken into key consideration are: number one, division of labor. What you look at how you break they work into specialized tasks. If you want your organizational structure to be structured in such a way that your focus is on dividing across board, right? So then you know that the kind of organizational structural design that you would be setting up is the type that you focus on how labor is distributed or across board. And then some would decide to structure the organization by departmentalizing it. So that's why in some organizations you hear the finance department, the digital marketing department, the creative department. So the organization is structured the way that is departmentalized. So it depends on the organization, what your business, what is the goal of your business? Then that will determine how you want to structure your organization. And then some also look at managerial hierarchy, right? So creating levels of authority and reporting. These are areas, if you're building or if you're designing your organizational structure, these are areas you have to look at and then have a comprehensive structure that captures them all. Okay, and then some you also factor in the span of control, right? Determining the team size. If your team size is 50, then you factor it into consideration when you are designing your organizational structure. And then you also look at centralization, how decision making power, where or decision making power resides. Do you want power or decision making to be in the hands of the line managers? Do you want a top-down approach? It's all your choice. So these are the 5 major areas that needs to be put into consideration when designing an organizational structure. You look at the division of labor, departmentalization, the managerial hierarchy, the span of control, and then the centralization of power. Okay, so having said that, right, let's now and take this, there's what we call the traditional departmentalization forms. Now, over the years, this is the way, this is the way businesses have functioned, right? This is the way organizations have structured their businesses over time. So departmentalization is essentially how companies organize people into teams or departments. So imagine, I put here on the screen, right? Imagine you're starting a business. So how would you? Okay, Pretty Beauty, are you speaking to me? Oh, okay. So you look at how would you group your employees? Would you put everyone who does similar work together? Okay, or would you organize them based on the product line? So these approaches have, stood the test of time. This is how organizations have structured their business over time. But the change, there is disruption. Technology has changed a lot of things. Some people now go virtual. It is no longer physical appearance in the office. A lot of things have changed. So the way we used to structure our business in the past may not apply. However, it is important to know that you should structure your business based on the goal of the business, the field in which you play, and that will play a huge role in you deciding what kind of organizational structure you want to operate with. So, however, choosing the right approach depends on your company's specific need, industry, and strategic goals, right? So we have the functional form. So this is based on primary functions performed within a unit. So grouping employees by what they do, such as marketing. So you can, let's say in a marketing department, right? As you've hired your workforce, you have the ones who do the creative designs, the flyers, the logos, and all that. You have the ones who do the digital marketing, right? You have the ones who shoot the videos for promotion and all that. So you decide that, okay, you know what? In this department, all the people who perform tasks that are related should be in one department. Okay, so that means you're looking at their primary functions or the primary functions performed by them, and then you put them as a unit, right? And then some would group based, okay? So some would group based on the goods or services being produced or sold. So you organize them around different product lines. So think of a consumer electronic company that might have separate divisions for smartphones, tablets, laptops. So they segment the operations based on the product that each unit is developing. So those who are developing smartphones should be in one department. Those who are developing tablets should be in one department. Those who are developing laptop. So they decide to structure their business based on the product that each unit is developing, right? And then the other, some would want to departmentalize their process or their business process based on the process is being used, right? So for example, I put here an automotive plant might organize by welding, painting, and final assembly department. So you can decide to departmentalize your structure based on the business process that each unit is specialized on. And then some would departmentalize based on the customer, right? The primary type of customers that are being served. So imagine a bank might have separate divisions for retail customers, small, big, large corporations. So a bank might decide to departmentalize based on the customer that, the different customer that they serve. Okay, and then some would decide to departmentalize based on geographic location. So global companies, of course, you see what I put here. Global companies often structure this way. with separate operations, those in North America, those in Europe, those in Africa, and all that. So that would determine kind of structural, organizational structure that they operate with. So these are examples or key examples of traditional departmentalization. Okay, now let's look at the contemporary organizational structure, right? There are three basic or main contemporary organizational structures, right? We have the matrix structure, we have the committee structure, we have the team-based structure, right? When it comes to matrix structure, this is the combination of two traditional structures simultaneously, right? Such as functional and geographic, or functional and product. So employees may have to report to multiple managers, right? Creating dual chain of command. Now, the good part of it is that this is flexible, but the bad part is that there might be conflict between different managers. So it's integrating different structures into one. Now, some organizations think for a bit, some companies that merged. Okay, we're going to see some examples down the line. So let's say banks that merged. Okay, now remember, both banks, they have their different operational procedure, they have their different ways of doing things, but now they've merged. Does it mean they are going to throw away the management of the other bank and then one will just function? They have to integrate. So that makes it a matrix structure. But in the process, okay, there would be flexibility. They report to different managers and, try to cohabit. The different organizations or banks try to cohabit, but the downside to it is that there might be conflict between different managers. But it's actually a flexible structure to operate with, as long as you understand what kind of business you're doing, what the field you're playing in, and what are the business goals, right? Now, we have the committee structure. When we talk about committee structure, it's more of bringing a group of persons together. Some would have advisory board, some would have board of trustees, and the likes. So that's a group, bringing a group together and forming a committee. So often they provide diverse perspectives on important decisions. So they are particularly useful for tracking complex problems that benefit from multiple viewpoints. So some structure the organization by having these boards, and these boards supervise or oversee, from the high level, how the business is run and take critical decisions. And we're going to see advantages and disadvantages of having some of, of these structures anyways. And we have the team-based structures, right? So authority and responsibility are assigned to self-managing groups who have autonomy to carry out their tasks. So team bring together people from different functional areas to collaborate on projects and ongoing operations, fostering innovation and rapid problem solving, right? So in a team-based structure, responsibility are assigned to self-managing groups. So that's why you now see line managers of the team, line managers of the digital marketing team, line managers of the accounting team, and all that. So decision and responsibility is assigned to them. And sometimes in this, if you'd ask me, I'm of the view that in this present time, this is what is prevalent and this is what works in this present time. But like I said, it is important to know the field that you play in, what is the goal of the organization, and then determine what structure works for you. But majority in this present time have shifted from the usual top-down approach, and now they are delegating and having these team leads take decisions. And of course, before you have team leads, you must have trusted their judgment. You must have trusted their way of delivery. Of course, you've tried them before you hand over the responsibility of team lead to them, and then you see that they deliver. Okay, so these are three key contemporary organizational structures that are prevalent in today's business space. Okay, so why team structure? Now, the reason why I had to single this out first is because, like I said, in today's world, this is what most are operating with now because times have changed. Technology has disrupted, and then not just technology, now is AI. So if you have a board of directors who are not tech savvy or who are not AI savvy, and they are the ones to keep directing and giving guides on how the workforce today should operate, but they do not have better understanding of how these things work. Do you actually think that might be a good thing, or would you rather assign team leads who are tech savvy, AI savvy, that you trust and have proven over time that they can deliver, to run and lead the teams and to deliver the objectives of the business? Which would you prefer? Before I go further, let me see. Would you rather have the board of directors who probably could be in their 50s, 60s? Some of them may not be AI savvy, tech savvy, but they are still the ones who direct how these operations run, or how the IT department should do ABC and all that? Or would you rather have people who are AI savvy, tech savvy, to be line managers, to drive the activities of their team and then report to the top management? Which would you prefer? Can I see your response in the chat room?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Oh, can I respond?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I prefer the AI tech savvy because they are current with the present day business model. And with that they can be able to move the company forward. And apart from that too, the team members under them, they can be able to relate to them because they are of almost different age bracket, but not that long age bracket. So they can be able to work collaboratively because they know they are still young and they have a whole lot to offer.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, does anybody have anything else to say? Anything else to say? Mr. Jackson, which would you prefer? Can you share your thoughts? Are you there, Mr. Jackson? Okay. Does anybody else have something to say? You prefer A or B? Which do you prefer? Before we move on. Okay. Anyways, we just have to move on. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, right? All right, so let me close this chat room. Okay, so why team-based structure? You see, team-based structure, they are focused more on specific issues or challenges facing the organization. So members meet regularly to identify problems, discuss solutions and all that, right? So in my own organization, we meet every Monday to discuss challenges, identify problems, discuss solutions, recommend improvements. And that's because we operate the team-based structure, right? And then, of course, in a team-based structure, you have self-management of teams. So these teams have autonomy in their work. And that's because over time, they have proven that they can deliver. And that's why the management would give them autonomy to deliver or to handle specific tasks based on the department that they operate in, make decisions about task assignments, work method, and just trust their judgment, and you see that they deliver. And that's because over time they've been able to prove this. Then we also have a cross-functional team where employees with diverse skills from different departments collaborate on projects or initiatives. So for example, I put here, launching a new product might require you have the engineers, the marketers, the designers, the finance professionals, all working together from concept to launch the product, right? So when you're operating a team-based structure, these are components, and I would call these advantages of operating a team-based structure. Then of course, visual teams where members collaborate remotely, using technology, working from different locations and all that. Actually, it was the COVID-19 changed the dynamics of work structure, right? And then everybody now started considering, oh, we can actually work from home or work from remote locations and still deliver. And there are some organizations today that if you are going to tell them to revert back to daily working from the office, even the top management will tell you, that is not going to happen. We can never revert back to that because they found out that, okay, this actually works. And in most cases, it saves resources, right? So these are reasons why team-based structures actually wins the day, if you'd ask me. Okay. Let me remove this from my screen. Okay, where do I put this? Okay. Okay. Now it is important to understand who reports to who and how authority flows through an organization. This is very important because if this is not well managed, there tend to be clashes. So the relationship or this relationship define not just reporting lines, but also communication channels, decision-making processes, and accountability, right? So we have the different 4 major internal relationship strategies. We have the managerial hierarchy, where the level of management within the organization from the entry-level supervisors to top executives, where we have that. And this creates the traditional organizational pyramid. So over the past 10 years, 15, 20 years, this has been what has been in operation, the managerial hierarchy from top to bottom, okay? And so the managerial hierarchy creates a clear chain of command where span of control determines how many direct reports, how many direct reports each manager oversees, right? So additionally, I put here, organizations distinguish between line positions, which is those who are directly involved in production or selling products, and its staff, which is those who provide support services. So getting these relationships right will help prevent confusion. So even in the organizational structure, it's also important to look at the internal relationships, because along the line, we're going to see that there are informal managerial positions that automatically creates itself in the course of this conversation. And pointing to that, you'd see, even though these are not line managers, but based on how close they have become as a result of working together, or based on the kind of skills that they have as a result of working together, they tend to now form a group within the organization, and information even circulates faster within them, and they work much better together. So we're going to see that in the course of discussion, right? So line positions, roles directly involved in creating, producing, or selling goods and services. Like in the manufacturing company, this includes the production workers, sales representatives, and their managers. Anyone in direct value chain, those can be put in line positions, right? And then we have the managerial span of control. This is the number of employees the manager directly reports, directly supervises. Okay, so that would also have to be put into consideration, because this actually is another way of forming internal relationship within the business structure. And of course, we have the staff positions, that is roles that provide administrative and support services to line positions. So these are areas that are put into consideration when you're forming an organizational structure, because you need to understand that there would be internal relationships that exist. And actually, it's good to leverage on those internal relationships, even while setting up organizational structures. Okay, so now let's differentiate, or let's compare centralization and decentralization. Now, one of the most functional decisions in organizational design is where decision-making power should reside. So when you're setting up a business as a potential business owner, or even as a business, you have established your business and you're running. I believe that before you established your business, you had thought and you have put in place how how decision making should flow within the organization. But for those who are yet to start, which is one of the benefits of being going through this course, is because you want to understand different areas as far as business and entrepreneurship is concerned. And today we're looking at organizational structure, right? So it is important to put into consideration and design where decision-making power should reside. So should top executives make most important decisions, or should authority be distributed through the organization? So this is not a 1, 2, 3, and then you make your choice kind of thing. No, you have to critically look into it, and whatever you are deciding, okay, you need to, it's important to put into consideration, like I've mentioned, where the business space you play in, the goal of the business, and that would help you to choose. So if you're choosing a centralized structure, it means that the top management makes most key decisions. It means that senior leaders maintain a broad view of operation. Then it means that you also want to enable tight financial control and consistency. This works well for organizations requiring standardization, and it can be slower. Yes, it can be slower to respond to local market conditions. You know why? Because decision is coming from the top, okay? So what happens when the top management is not available, or if it's a board of executives, and before decisions are taken, they have to meet, discuss, deliberate, and then take decisions. So that can, take a longer process and slow down the response time before actions are being taken. Okay, so of course, this centralized structure, I put here an example, is what operates in the military organizations, because they have strict hierarchy, right? Now, looking at decentralized structure, you see the attributes. Decision-making is pushed down the organizational hierarchy, and it enables faster decision closer to customers and marketers, okay? And then it increases innovation through employee empowerment, right? And then better customer responsiveness and local adaptation, and it requires a strong communication system and coordination. So if you're operating a decentralized organizational structure, then you need to make sure you have strong communication, because if anything goes wrong, there is no strong communication, what happens? Some may be acting based on the previous SOP or the previous instruction dispensed, while there is a new instruction, and some people are operating based on the new instruction, but there was communication gap. So if you are operating a decentralized structure, it is important to make sure you have strong communication system, right? And this is what tech startups and automotive tech startups with automotive product teams operate with. Virtually all tech startups operate with a decentralized structure. So altering the degree of decentralization can significantly enhance organizational success by better aligning decision-making authorities with strategic goals and competitive conditions. So I ask a question here, right? Based on the attributes of centralized structure and decentralized. Now, do not mind that I put an example, military. It doesn't mean that, only the military organizations operate a centralized system or should operate a centralized system. Okay, so different, like I said, your business goals, the field you play in will determine which organizational structure you should have in your organization. So I want to know how many of us are actually existing business owners on the call. You are actually an existing business owner. Let me go to the chat room. So I have a question for you. Don't worry, it's not a difficult question, right? So let me see in the chat room. How many of us on the call are existing business owners? I'm coming to those non-business owners, right? So if you're an existing business owner, please put yes in the chat room. Existing business owners. Okay, Olmo is an existing business owner. Who else is an existing business owner in the class? Who else? I see Isaac. I see Pretty Beauty. Teniola, Shadrach. Okay, so I'm assuming only Olmo is an existing business owner. Okay, so what kind of organizational structure do you have in your business, or do you have operational in your business? Is it centralized or decentralized? Olmo. Yes,
Okay,
Olmo,
it's
tell me.
decentralized.
Oh,
Decentralized.
decentralized. Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Then the rest, I assume you're non-business owners, but you are an aspiring business owner, right? So which would you prefer to operate with in your business by the time you establish your business? Would you prefer the centralized business structure or the decentralized business structure? Which would you prefer? A or B? A is centralized, B is decentralized. Oh yeah, no. Okay, Pretty Beauty, decentralized, okay. Oh yeah, now, oh yeah. The rest of you, Isaac, are you with us? Are you with us? Teniola, are you with us? Shedra, are you with us? Okay, anyways, in this time and age, right? Like I mentioned earlier, most would like to have line managers and distribution of power. And in the decentralized business structure, it's easy to operate in this time and age because the time is fast changing. So you need a system that would quickly respond to change or quickly take decisions to keep up with the pace of decision making in today's prevalent world, right? So that you don't have to wait for the top management or the board of executives to meet, have meeting, deliberate, and then take a decision. So you see, most government agencies or parastatals, because this hierarchy is so defined, okay? I remember when we were trying to get, in my organization, we were preparing for a summit, right? And we're trying to get the UN to send a representative to the summit. Oh, we waited. Weeks were passing by, and whenever we check, they are still waiting for instruction from the top management before deciding who would be the representative of UN to come on the summit. Oh, yes. Okay, but if it was some private sector, it is very easy to decide, okay, who goes and who does not go. So some of the private sectors that partnered with us for the summit, it was very fast to get them to say, okay, even on the first mail thread after discussing and then, okay, please, they would highlight the right person to take over, please take over, and then see to it that we partner with this organization for this summit. So it was that simple, that straight. But you see, when you are operating a centralized system, decision-making is slow most of the times. Okay, so yeah, I would also recommend the decentralized business structure, organizational business structure for businesses. Okay, so now let's look at mechanistic and organic organizational structures, right? So for the mechanistic organizational structure, there is high specialization, meaning workers focus on narrow, specific tasks, requiring deep expertise. There is rigid departmentalization, which means there is clear boundaries between departments with formal processes. And many management layers, yes, multiple hierarchical levels from frontline to executives. And then there is a narrow span of control, meaning managers oversee relatively few direct reports. Okay, and then there is centralized decision making, which means important decisions made at the top are communicated downwards. Okay, and then of course there's long chain of command, and then tall organizational structure, which results in pyramid-shaped pyramid-shaped hierarchy with many levels. But when you're operating an organic organizational structure, there is no specialization. There is no specialization, meaning employees often wear multiple hats and cross-functional boundaries. And then there is loose departmentalization, meaning there is flexible team structure that adapts to project's need. Few management levels, meaning there is flatter hierarchy with fewer layer between front lines and leadership. And also there is wide span of control, there is decentralized decision-making, short chain of command, obviously, and then flat organizational structure, which of course creates a streamlined hierarchy with rapid decision making. Now, most organizations, right, operate with the organic organizational structure. Why? Because, I mean, in your business, I believe that for Omo, who is already a business owner, I believe that there are some employees of yours who don't just, they always adapt to whatever task that is thrown at them. Even if it is outside the job description, but as time goes on, there are tendencies of you passing some tasks to them because based on their expertise over time, right? You know that they can handle this, but this is actually not part of their JD, but they can handle it and they have the ability of jumping onto the task and getting it delivered. So you see, employees often wear multiple hats across functional boundaries. So most organizations, most companies operate the organic organizational structure within instead of the mechanistic, which, you know, it is the way it is, and we just have to follow it that way and no change to it. That is for the mechanistic organizational structure. So these two types represent fundamentally different philosophies about how to structure work or manage people. Okay, so I mean, mechanistic organization operates like a well-oiled machine. It's highly structured, predictive, efficient, of course, it's efficient, but is that what do you think operating the mechanistic organizational structure within your business is what fits in today's dynamic world? If yes, fine and good, go for it, okay? But if no, then go for the organic organizational structure so that you have a very functional business or organization, okay? So now let's look at the informal organization, right? While organizational chart shows the formal structure, the official reporting relationship and hierarchies, every organization also has an informal structure that develops. This is the one I mentioned. There is an informal structure, informal organizational structure that naturally develops through social interactions and relationships. So this informal organization can be just as powerful as the formal one, and sometimes even more so. So it includes friendship networks that are formed within the business, okay? Unofficial communication channels. And this is called, it's called Grapevine. You can check that up on ChatGPT or Google or whatever. And then an informal leader who may not hold official management position, but nevertheless influences decisions and operations. So in some organizations, it is quite funny that in some organizations, when this informal organization has been formed, okay, if probably the line manager does not have a good working relationship with the team, and then an instruction is passed or a directive is passed, but because the person who is leading that informal organizational structure decides that, you know what, I will not do it, let heaven fall, I will not do it. But because he or she has decided, those who listen to her or him would also take the same stand. And it's a bad place to be if there is no good working relationship within the organization. And this informal organization that has formed as a result of, interactions and relationships within the organization. When they are not in good working relationship with the line manager, then, the line manager would have a hard time, really. So informal relationships can be between people at the same hierarchical level or between people at different levels and in different departments. So the relationship can be based on connections made inside or outside the workplace. So what are the power of informal, what is the power of this informal network? The informal organization provides a continuous stream of company information through casual conversations, right? Helping employees to stay informed about changes, challenges, and opportunities. Now, this network often operates faster than official communication channels, I tell you, okay? And in spreading news, both be it accurate or inaccurate news, news spreads faster within, news spread faster within the informal network throughout the organization. Okay, so if there is a good working relationship, okay, you see that good, the right or the accurate news would also spread faster through this informal network. And how to manage the informal structure? Oh, smart managers, okay? That's why I mentioned the line manager, if he doesn't have a good working relationship with this informal network, there is big wahala. Okay, so how to manage them? Smart managers recognize and work with the informal organization rather than fighting it. You see, they identify informal leaders and influencers. Okay, tap into the informal communication network to gauge employee sentiment and use these relationships to facilitate change. You see, so employees gain more control over their work environment by assessing information and building relationships that help them navigate organizational complexities. So in a large corporation, there is bound to be informal networks. And then it will be right that the line managers or the line managers or the Okay, Mercy. Okay, good. All right. So it is important that line managers have good working relationship, okay, or department managers have good working relationship with these informal sectors for, a good business relationship or organizational relationship to coexist and, keep moving forward. If you fight the informal network, hard time. Okay, so in large corporations, take it from me, there is bound to be informal organizations within, and they have leaders, people they listen to in that network, even though they are not official line managers or they do not hold any official managerial position, but they have influence. Okay. So what are the trends influencing organizational design? Oh, yes. Okay, so in the business world never stands still. An organizational structure must evolve to keep pace with emerging trends and challenges. Yes, today's companies face unprecedented pressure from globalization, technological disruption, changing workforce expectation, and intensifying competition. So smart organizations are experimenting with innovative structures, structural approach that would have seemed radical just a decade ago. So the kind of organizational structures that are being developed these days to keep up with the pace of the evolving business environment in the last 20 years or 25 or even 15 years, it would have been said to be, oh, very radical. This is uncalled for. We can't do this. But times have changed and times keep changing. And so there are trends that needs to be looked into and then in designing organizational structure, right? So let's look at re-engineering. This is the complete redesign of business structure and process to achieve dramatic improvement in performance. So you could have started your business and then it's running. But because of the changing times, there would be need to re-engineer to restructure the business process to be able to fit in in today's world. Otherwise, you will be left behind. And those who are fast to evolve and re-engineer would just be at the top, and then you're going backward, and then before you know it, you're extinct. Okay? So we also have the virtual corporation, a network of independent companies linked by information technology to share skills, resources, and access to markets. So rather than owning every capability, virtual corporations form temporary alliance with partners who have complementary strengths, creating flexibility and efficiency. Okay, so you also have to look at incorporating the virtual side of things, talking about information technology and all that, incorporating it into your existing structure. And then, of course, virtual teams, right? We've talked about the fact that, oh, there is now virtual collaborations. You have the virtual tools collaboration across different regions and geographical distances. Okay, so these are trends that influence organizational design. And then outsourcing, okay? Outsourcing, I mean, this is now a big deal, all right? Outsourcing is now a big deal. You can see a small organization, but they do big things. Now, not because they do it themselves directly, but they have outsourced some of the processes. And this was factored in when they were designing the way they would operate, when they were designing their organizational structure. Okay, you know what? This aspect of the business, we would outsource it. So they sign an MOU with the outsourcing company. So they would outsource this side of the business, outsource this side of the business. And at the end of the day, they are doing big things. But when you come to their business outlet, they actually don't look big. But that's because they have incorporated outsourcing into their core business process. And of course, global mergers. There's been a lot of mergers, right? There've been a lot of mergers across businesses. Banks have merged, businesses have merged. We're going to see some of those mergers, right? Businesses have merged, banks have merged. I mean, creating a single cohesive organization from two previously independent entities across national boundaries. That's what global mergers are. So successful global mergers require careful integration, because like I said earlier, these are two organizations that have different modus operandi, right? They have different operational procedure. Now they are going to merge. So it requires careful integration of different organizational cultures. Remember, it could be coming from different geographical regions. So there will be different organizational cultures, different systems, different structures, and all that. So there has to be careful integration of the different organizational cultures and all that for the merger to be very effective. So these are trends that these are trends in influencing organizational structural designs in today's world. Okay, so now let's look at contemporary organizational structures, right? Now, okay. So I have here, okay, I think I have a point I wanted to, okay, yes. So the point the reason I have this here is that I wanted to point out that the shift towards more flexible collaborative structures reflects fundamental change in how work gets done in this 21st century. So projects have become, more complex, requiring diverse expertise, and markets change faster, demanding quicker responses. And employees increasingly expect meaningful work with autonomy and collaboration rather than the usual rigid hierarchies. I tell you, a couple of times we've had, or rather, most of the Gen Zs within our organization, they have their own ways of delivering their tasks. And so if you are not in tune with the ways they deliver their task, you may not understand that this is how they are able, this is the best way they function to get the task delivered. And then you would be saying, oh, we used to do this, we should do it like this. But no, times have changed. And the way people reason these days starting from the Gen Zs, have also changed. As long as they get the work delivered and they follow ethical standards, then you can actually give them that autonomy to function and deliver. So the contemporary organizational structures are actually important because times have changed and the way it operates in this 21st century is different from the way it used to operate in the past. Okay, so looking beyond traditional departmentalization, right? We had seen the matrix structure. We've talked about the matrix structure earlier, but however, this is where newer, more flexible approaches shine. Rather than abandoning the traditional structure entirely, contemporary organizational layers on additional mechanism, which, like the matrix structure and committee will provide, would help you leverage different employee skills and facilitate cross-functional collaboration. So we have the mixed structure and the committee structure. Mixed structure combines functional and product or project dimensions, creating dual reporting relationships. Earlier, we talked about the matrix structure where you have a merger, two different managers or two different organizations merging. They have their different managers and how they work. So they come together and then it creates, these are two organizations coming together. You have different reporting systems, different structures, different organizational functions and all that, right? So when you have the matrix structure, which is a combination of project or product dimensions or functionality, and it creates dual reporting relationships. But the committee structure vests authority in groups rather than individuals for collaborative decision making. So we'll be looking at that as we go further. Now let's look at the matrix structure. Okay, remember, because these are maybe two organizations that has come together, there is dual reporting. Okay, where employees report to both a functional manager, which of course is who oversees their specialty areas and career development, and they also report to a project manager who coordinates project deliverables and deadlines. So this requires excellent communication, like we've said before, and excellent negotiation skills to balance competing demands. So imagine where you have to report to your line manager and you have to report to the project manager. So you see, you have two different managers that you report to, courtesy of, a merger, or courtesy of putting two systems together. Now you have these two managers to report to. It is important that communication line is kept open, because if you had communicated with manager A and then manager B is not aware of what has been communicated to manager A, and then that could lead to, a challenge within the team. So it's important that communication is kept open. There's excellent communication and excellent negotiation skills. And then there is also it is also project focused. So ideal for special projects requiring diverse skills and expertise from multiple functional areas working together intensively. The structure enables the flexibility to assemble and disassemble project teams as business need evolves while maintaining functional expertise. So in a matrix structure, let's say there's a project, the organization wins a project, right? And then they decide to set up let's say a project team, okay? And then you have a project manager, like we've seen in the dual reporting system. You have a project manager. So it's easy in this matrix structure. When the project is executed, then you can disable, okay? You can disable or disassemble the set up project team when they are done with their task. So that is how to handle the matrix organizational structure. And then the other one, okay, before we move over to the other one, the advantage of the matrix structure is that there is enhanced teamwork. Absolutely. There is enhanced teamwork. There is efficient use of resources. There is organizational flexibility. there is high performance. You see increased employee ownership because everybody owns their task that is given to them. There is commitment and there is motivation by giving people meaningful influence over project outcome. And of course, there is development opportunities. So because you have assigned a responsibility to someone and you've given him autonomy to use, to use his skills, use his initiatives and get this delivered, it helps them to think faster, think ahead, research, and by so doing, they are improving their interpersonal skills, they are improving their technical skills, to be able to deliver. And by so doing, they are developing their themselves, right? So they have this is the advantage of the matrix system, where the team is able to, figure things out, be able to develop their skills, their mindset around getting these things done. But if it is a situation whereby, the manager says it has to be done this way, every single time that a task is given, everybody looks up to the manager. How should we do it? Nobody will think, or they will not think of figuring it out themselves, right? So they would always look up to somebody. And so that makes them redundant. Their strategic thinking, would go extinct because they're always dependent on the top who would give directives on how this thing is done. But if you allow them to function, to figure it out, to develop their skills in it, it helps them even with their personal development. Okay, so this is the advantage of the matrix system. Now, let's look at the challenges, because it's often said that where there is advantage, there is possibility of disadvantage, right? So, but I have an exception. There's a caveat to it, and that is not for this class. But anyways, majority of the times where there are advantages, there are disadvantages. Okay, so disadvantage or the challenge with matrix structure is that there is power struggle. Let that sink in. There is power struggle. Why? Because, for example, a functional manager might prioritize long-term capability building, while a project manager focuses on hitting immediate deliverables. So both goals are legitimate and they can clash, because the other one is prioritizing long-term capability, long-term, everything, it is long-term for the functional manager. But for the project manager, the deliverables are immediate, right? So this is one of the challenges with the matrix structure, okay? And then there is confusion and ambiguity. Unclear reporting relationships and job responsibilities leave the team member uncertain about what to prioritize. Okay, and then there is lack of cohesiveness, where communication difficulties amongst team members from different functional areas who may use different terminologies, have different working styles, and focus on different metrics. So building trust and share understanding across these boundaries takes time and intentional effort that some organizations fail to invest. Okay, so there is lack of cohesiveness in a matrix structured organization. So these are the few disadvantages. But when it's well managed, when it is well managed, I tell you, it is a good structure to operate with. Okay, so now let's look at the committee structure. Okay, the committee structure, like I mentioned earlier, is where you have the board of executives, you have the advisory board. They are the ones who call the shots and all that. So I had explained that before. So now let's look at the advantages of a committee structure: diverse viewpoint and expertise. Now, when an organization is setting up an advisory board, or is setting up their board of executives, now in their selection, they don't just go to the roadside or look at their friend list and select. They select people who are experts in their different fields. They select people who are respected in the society based on their achievables, or what they have done in the society. That when you mention their names and say, okay, Mr. A is also part of our board of executive, is on our board. Okay, everybody says, oh, okay, I think that board has integrity, right? So there is diverse viewpoints. So bringing together people with various backgrounds, experiences, and areas of expertise, dramatically expanding the range of solution possibilities. So when there is when you have this team, it's very easy to solve a challenge when they come. So committee members challenge each other's assumption, identify blind spots, and pressure test ideas before committing resources. And the result is typically more thorough analysis than individual decision makings can achieve. So you see, when these people with their wealth of knowledge, expertise, and all that, when they come together to analyze a situation, they will definitely come up with, a solution to it. So organizations that do not have these kind of boards sometimes lose out, because when some certain challenges come, you don't have people who can sit down and look at it critically and possibly, be able to do one or two things to ameliorate the situation. So the advantage of having a committee structure is, one, you have the diverse viewpoint and expertise, and then enhanced coordination. Okay, so for example, Novartis, right? They use an executive committee structure where leaders overseeing different global business operations meet regularly. So this ensures that decision is not in one division. Okay, this ensures that decision in one division consider implications for other divisions, maintaining strategic coherence across the complex organization. So you see, when they all come together, they are able to, look at the situation from different angles, okay, and then provide solution to it. So these are the advantages of a committee structure. It's actually, if your business is expanding, okay, it is actually important to get a board of directors, board of executive, or what have you, that would be able to help to checkmate the activities of the organization, and also to help the organization direct it towards the right direction. Okay. Now let's look at the disadvantages. So one will say, look at the advantage, major advantages too. But disadvantage now, how many disadvantages? These are the 4 major disadvantages of a committee structure. And you and I would agree that there is slow decision making. They have to sit now, right? They have to sit, discuss, deliberate, deliberate, and then take a decision. So that will take time, right? And then domination by individuals. So sometimes a single individual, whether through force or personality, formal authority, or superior expertise, dominates committee deliberations. So if on the board, let's take this example, right? So if on the board, you have one let's say on your business advisory board, right? So you have an architect, you have a professor, and then you have the richest man in your community, okay, on that board. And people tend to respect the richest man in your community. And so he's on your board of directors, right? And the architect has given, let's say this is a construction company, right? So you have, the architect has given his very vital and valid points as to why this structure should be built with what's it called? With these materials instead of the other materials. And it's valid, okay? So the professor has his own views, right? And then the richest man in the community who is in your board, because he is well respected and he's the richest, by the way, right? And then he says, no, I think this is the way we should go with the other materials because of ABC. He does not have structural knowledge when it comes to construction and all that, right? But he's the richest man, right? And he's well respected. And he pushes that his thoughts or his idea should be taken. And because he's well respected and nobody, probably people will not want to, the other board members will not want to get in his bad books, right? And then they tend to listen to him, even though it may not be the right decision to take, right? So you see, there is domination by individuals when you have the committee structure operational in your business. So this is one of the disadvantages. And then diffuse accountability. This one, okay? So when decisions are made collectively, it becomes difficult to hold a single individual accountable for outcomes. Very simple, right? Very simple. So this can lead to the committee members taking less personal responsibility, knowing that any blame will be shared across group. So it also complicates performance evaluation and reward system. So this is one other disadvantage of the committee structure. And then we have inefficient meetings. Oh yes, when the board meets, oh boy, let me see. When you are being called for a board meeting, let me see. For those of us who work for organizations, right? When you're being called for a board meeting, is it usually a quick meeting and then everybody disperses and goes to do their daily activity? Or is it really very elongated? Let me see, maybe it's different for some people. Oh yeah, now, let's use the chat room, please. When a board meeting is called and have you been in a board meeting, and if yes, tell me, is it usually elongated or it's usually very quick and everybody disperses and goes back to their activities? Or if you're a board member here, please tell us, the board meetings, are they usually very quick and precise, or are they elongated? Can someone tell me, please? Yes, you can unmute or you can put in the chat room. Anyone? Pretty Beauty, are you there? Omo, yeah now. Teniola? Shadrach? Tell us now. Anybody? Are we still together? Are we still together? Oh, Pretty Beauty. Your board meetings are usually quick and precise. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, good. Thank you. Any other person? It's like Pretty Beauty. You are a board member. It's like you're one of those board members that makes it quick and precise. Okay, so in most cases, right? In most cases, when the board meets, it's usually an extended meeting. Okay, and sometimes some people will tell you, oh, the meetings, what was discussed in the meetings, they kept running round and round and round and round and all that. So committee meetings can be lengthy, okay, with little tangible accomplishments, you see. So yeah, these are the disadvantages of a committee structure, okay? So yeah, so take away from this segment is, we have evolving structures. Organizations should continuously evolve their organizational structure to meet with the pace of the time we are in, okay? And then we have matrix structure. We looked at the matrix structure, the benefits and the disadvantages, okay? You see, I said it now, Pretty Beauty. Yeah. Okay, so you definitely would be one of those that would say, you know what, can we make it quick and precise so we can all go back to our activities. Okay, yeah. All right, so yes, and then we looked at the committee roles and all that. So let's move on to enhancing motivation and performance through teams. Okay, in today's work space, companies are discovering that teams are the secret ingredient to success. Simple. Unlike before this time, you don't have team leads. Before this time, you don't have teams that oversee this and that. It's a rigid structure. But today, in today's workspace, companies are discovering that teams are the secret ingredient to success. So why teams? To understand why team works so well, we'll first need to explore how a group of people naturally behave when they come together. All right, so let's start. Let's start. In order to understand team behavior, teams are special kinds of group. A group is simply two or more people working together towards a shared goal, right? And then there are two flavors to it. We have the formal group and the informal group. So we've talked about the informal group. The formal group are the officially created groups by the organization, okay? The likes of the marketing department, the project team, the accounting department, and all that. And then the informal groups, like you said before, they are formed based on friendships and social connections. And groups don't exist in a vacuum. They are shaped by the company's culture, available resources, individual personalities, unwritten rules, group sizes, and how tightly knit members feel. Okay, so what are the powers, or let's look at the powers of cohesiveness rather. Of course, we can see cohesiveness measures how much team members can stick together and resist outside influences. Now, the impact on results when you have a cohesive power is that when teams set high standards for themselves, cohesiveness becomes a productivity superpower because everybody pushes each other to do their best. Okay, and then in building cohesiveness, the teams, you need to keep the team small. Okay, you need to align personal, and then there should be alignments of personal and team goals. And you need to give the team prestige and status and reward the whole team, not just an individual. So if you have a team working on a project and there's an achievement that was made, you need to reward the whole team. Do not call out just an individual. You need to reward the whole team. Okay, and then it creates healthy competition with other teams. So what are the benefits? There is high productivity. There is better self-esteem because everybody is relevant. Okay, there is increased loyalty. Of course, less turnover. So the potential downside is that sometimes teams can become too insulated, resisting change or clashing with other teams. So these are the downside to it. If a team can be so closely knit together that when they take a decision that they're not going to do this, come rain, come shine, then they end up not doing it. So that is one of the downsides to, to having a cohesive team. All right. So now let's look at work groups versus work team. These are two different things. Okay, they might sound the same, but they are two different things. Now, work groups, okay, they are in work groups, members share information and resources, but work independently, meaning everyone has their own tasks and responsibilities. Okay, for example, a sales department where each person have their own territory and quota. They are a work group, but each person have their own responsibilities. Whereas a work team, they are members who collaborate intensively, combining knowledge and skills towards a shared goal. Example is a product development team designing a new app together. So they have to collaborate and work as a team before they proceed with every step. But a work group, they are individuals who have their own, they could be in one department, but they have their own quota. So let's say for some marketing departments, let's say in a bank, okay, or call it either marketing or business development, I don't know what they call it, right? So everybody have their quota. And that's why you see those marketing staff from banks or from different organizations, because they have their quota. They are a work group, but they have their individual quota and responsibilities to meet up with. So this is the difference between a work group and a work team. Okay. So what are the weaknesses and strengths of group decision making? Obviously, the strength is that you have more brain power, you have better quality, you have higher buy-in in terms of people support decisions they help to make. Yes. So if you get me involved in decision-making process and we take this decision, then it behoves on me to also support and see that the decision that has been taken is actually upheld, right? So, but the weakness is that it takes longer. So getting everybody to align takes longer time, okay? And there is what we call groupthink risk. That is the pressure to conform can silence dissenting voices, right? So when some people in a group, you see that, oh, every time there is a question, every time there is a task to deliver, it's always Mr. A, Mr. B, Miss C, Miss D that does it, is at the forefront. Then the rest of the people will just muscle up and they just follow whatever these four persons, what has come up with for us to do. That's what we're going to do. So it's actually puts pressure to conform, and they can silence dissenting voices. And then you have unequal participation. So there is a few loud voices, and those few loud voices would dominate the other voices from being heard. Okay, and then there's diffuse responsibility. So somebody will say, oh, well, it wasn't just my decision. We decided it together. So there is no accountability. Okay, so that's the weakness of taking group decisions or group decision making. So everybody will say, well, there's nobody to take the responsibility. We all took the decision together. If it fails, we all fail. So nobody is accountable. Okay. So understanding these trade-offs will help managers and team members navigate group dynamics more effectively. So it is important to put this into great consideration before knowing how to deal with group decision. If you would want to work with group decision, or you want the line manager to take decisions, or what have you. Okay. So what are the types of work teams, right? We have the problem-solving teams, okay, where employees from different departments meet regularly to brainstorm improvements and discuss quality and then efficiency or work environment issues. So like I said, in my own organization, we meet on Mondays, could be virtually, especially virtually anyways. And then we discuss what we did last week, what were the challenges, what are we doing this week? Do you foresee any challenges? If challenge A comes up, how do we tackle it? And all that, right? So yeah, so you have problem-solving team. You have self-managed work team. These are the all-stars of autonomy. Wow. With no traditional supervisor, they set their own goals, they plan work, they schedule, they choose team members, evaluate their own performance, and all that. And then we have the cross-functional team, employees from different departments. It could be from marketing department, engineering department, finance department. They come together to tackle complex projects. They bring diverse expertise and resources to solve problems no single department could handle, problems that no single department could handle. So these are the types of work teams. So it depends on what type of work team you have within your organization, or you would like to operate within your organization. But these are the basic three that we have to discuss today. So now, how do you manage how do you manage, or rather, let's keep it at that, self-managed teams in action, right? So I have examples here. In 2013,
Please, can anyone still hear her? I think we lost her. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking it's from my end. Please hold on. Let's try to get her back on the call. I think it's network. Thank you. Please let's be patient while we try to get her back. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know, my internet went off. Okay.
You're
So
welcome
please,
back.
all right, thank you. Okay, so let's go back to our slides. Okay. All right, please confirm you can see my slide.
Can see your slides. Welcome back,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you very much. Okay, so we were looking at examples of self-managed teams, right? So I had mentioned that this online retailer, Zappos, you can check them out online, Google about, right? They made waves by eliminating traditional bosses and organizational charts. So they adopted what they called holacracy, a system where self-managed teams take charge. So employees gained unprecedented autonomy to make decisions and drive initiatives. Okay. And then another example is the WL Gore, right? They are an Elixir guitar string specialist. So what they did was a small team spent 3 years autonomously developing the Elixir guitar strings. Without supervisors, they persuaded the colleagues to help perform their design. And the result, they became the #1 selling acoustic guitar string brand worldwide. Okay, so this is self-managed teams in action. So there are organizations that actually work. They have structured their business in such a way that they give teams the autonomy to take decisions, get the work done. All they want is the result. And you can find this actually in tech firms. I have a friend who works with InterSwitch, and so they are the ones who it's the innovation hub. They call theirs innovation hub arm of InterSwitch. So they have the autonomy to build applications, develop processes, and all that. All InterSwitch wants from them is for this week. This is the task for this week. However you're going to do it. But by the last Friday of, this is the task for this month. By the last Friday of this month, we want to see the product. So that's a self-managed team in action. You see, so these real-world examples show that giving teams freedom and responsibility can lead to remarkable innovation and market success. All right, so now what are the key factors for high-performing team? Clear goals, okay? Clear goals, true collaboration, synergy, and shared commitment. So creating high-performing team is not just accidental. It requires intentional design, ongoing effort, and strategic thinking from the leadership. Okay, so it's what separates great team from the ones are these 4 essential ingredients. There has to be clear goals. There has to be true collaboration. There has to be synergy, and there has to be shared commitment. Okay. Now let's look at building a high performance team, right? By understanding how groups work, knowing the difference between work group and true teams, and recognizing both the strengths and pitfalls of group decisions, organizations can strategically harness the power of collaboration. So if a team must work and be functional, there has to be great collaboration within the team. Okay, so would move over. Let me check what's my time now. Okay, Mercy, is it time for break or I should continue? Mercy? Mercy, Mercy? Mercy, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Break is by 12. So, yeah, so you can still continue. Break is by 12 to 12:30.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so we move over to the part 2 of our class or session today, right? So we're looking at organizational relationship and authority, how companies structure themselves to get work done efficiently and maintain control. Okay. All right. So in this section, we would explore the different ways companies rate these structures and what they mean for employees at every level. So let's start. The managerial hierarchy. This is the usual. I believe this is not strange. This is the usual pyramid. So most companies organize their managers into 3 distinctive levels. You have the top management where you have the CEO seated, you have the big decision makers seated there, the presidents and all that. And then in the middle, you have the middle management where you have the departmental heads who connect strategy to execution. And then you have the supervisory management. These are the frontline managers directly overseeing employees and all their activities. So this pyramid structure creates clear reporting relationship. Everyone knows who they report to and who to them. So information flows, from up to bottom through these layers, and decision cascades from top to bottom as well. So this is the usual that we all know, right? Now, going beyond traditional hierarchy, okay, let's look at the Morningstar company. Now, not every company follows the traditional pyramid. So what the Morningstar did, right? They operated what they called the self-management principle. So guess what? They had 0 bosses or managers. They had 600 permanent colleagues. They don't call them employees, though. They are all colleagues. Because there is no manager. Okay, so this is going beyond the traditional, hierarchical structure. They came up with their own, and it worked for them because they know what they want to achieve. They know what the business goal is. They know where they play in, and so they came up with their own. So they had 600 permanent colleagues, not employees, and then they had 4,000 seasonal workers during harvest. And then everyone takes personal responsibility for achieving company goals. Coordination happens through direct communication and written agreements across board. And what was the result? A high efficient, innovative company where people manage themselves. So again, whatever your business goal is, whatever field you're playing in, you need to have a clear understanding, clear picture of it before deciding what kind of structure do you want this business to run on. Okay, so this is going beyond the traditional hierarchy that we had seen in the previous slide. Now, let's look at chain of command and unity of command. These are 2 fundamental principles that keep operations running smoothly. There has to be chain of command and there has to be unity of command. So talking about chain of command, this is the official line of authority running from top to top of the organization to the bottom. So it answers the question, who reports to who? Okay.
Hello, Ma, are you still there? Hello, Ma, are you still there? Oh, I think we've lost her again. Please, let's be patient. I think her network is giving her issue. Let's try to get her back.
Okay, once again, sorry about that. Understand why my network will go off. Okay. Okay, let's hope this does not go off again. All right, so sorry about that. All right, let's go back to our slide. Please confirm you can see my slide and I am audible.
Yes, loud and clear. We can see your slide.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So yes. So yeah, so I mentioned that these are two fundamental principles that keep the organization running smoothly. There has to be chain of command. There has to be unity of command. Okay, so now what is the challenge with the matrix organization? Matrix organizational structure, right? Some companies use matrix structure where employees report to multiple managers. We've seen this before, right? I just brought this here because I needed to explain something. Okay, so let's say both a project manager and a functional department head. So this violates the unity of command. So the reason why I brought this here is, we've looked at unity of command, right? Where a simple but powerful rule, everyone should have exactly one boss. But what happens in a matrix structure where there is a merger, okay? And then they report to the functional manager and they report to the project manager. So obviously this violates the unity of command that should be operational in an organization, right? So the problem is that there is conflicting priorities and unclear authority. So that's one problem, one key problem that could stem from that within a unity structure kind of organization. So employees in divisions that operate in both locations were unsure about which CEO's decision took precedence. Okay, so example is the Unilever experience with dual leadership. So let's quickly go to let's go online and understand what really happened. All right, the Unilever experience with dual leadership. Okay, so let's check with ChatGPT. I will switch my screen to my ChatGPT and let's see what it has to say about that. Okay. Okay, so let's ask ChatGPT. Please tell me about the Unilever's experience with dual leadership, right? Let's see. Okay, so it says that for most of its modern history, right, Unilever operated under a dual legal or corporate structure. One parent company in the Netherlands and the other in the UK. You see, so Unilever NV is the one from Netherlands, and then Unilever PLC is the one from UK. So although they are legally separate, these two entities share the same economic interests, the same directors, consistent accounting policies, and coordinated divided policies through cross shareholdings and special agreements. So operationally, Unilever tried to treat its global business as a single economic entity rather than two completely independent companies. Hence, dual leadership or structure refers more to the legal and shareholder entity architecture than a fully independent dual management operations, right? So the challenges, there's complexity and inefficiency, slower decision-making, weaker unified strategy, corporate governance and shareholder ambiguity, right? And then perception by investors and analysts. So meaning by early 2000s, many viewed the dual-headed structure as outdated, you see. So in short, while the dual structure had historical legal rationales, over time it became a source of strategic friction and inefficiency. So they did have a challenge with running a dual leadership structure, but over time they were able to, conquer the challenge, and they operated effectively with that structure. Okay, so let's go back to our slide, right? So I had to put that example there to buttress the challenges being faced when you operate the matrix organizational structure, especially under the fact that, every business should have a chain of command and unity. That is, everyone reports to one boss. But hey, when you have mergers like that, like we've already established, there's the conflict, and unclear authority, right? But if it is well managed, it is very flexible and highly efficient. So matrix structure can work, but they require exceptional communication and clearly defined roles to avoid confusion and conflict. So if the communication is not great, if the roles are not clearly defined, then there would be confusion and conflict. When you get these two aspects right, then you're good to go. Right. Okay. So now let's look at delegation or authority and accountability. These three are interconnected concepts that make organizations function. Authority is the legitimate power granted by your position to make decisions, give orders, and expect compliance. Okay, it's official power. It is official power that comes with your job title. Okay, and then delegation, when managers assign some of their authority or responsibility to subordinates. So that means you're trusting someone else to handle your task and make decisions, but you are still accountable for the outcome. Yes. Okay, because at the end of the day, you who is the leader, my boss used to say, or my boss usually says, right? If your team fails, if you have a bad team, it means you are a bad leader. If you have a bad team, it means you are a bad leader. Starting from where you hired, starting from how you train them, starting from how you handle them and all that, it means you are a bad leader. So you should go back, sit down and think, where did you get it wrong? You have done something wrong, definitely. It could be if you have that staff who is, over time, who is inefficient, okay? It means that even from the hiring process, you did not pay attention and you hired the wrong person. So is it the fault of the person whom you hired? No, it is your fault. So if your team are having problems communicating with you, it means you are having you have not taught them how to communicate with you. The problem is yours. So if you are going to delegate as well, and then make sure you're ready to take responsibility when the people you delegated the job to do a bad job. Okay, and then of course, accountability, being answerable for results. You can delegate authorities downward, but accountability flows upward. No doubt about that. You can't even debate that. So if they do well, good. If they do well, it is the team. The team, it's a team effort. But when they fail, it's you, the leader, that will take the fall. You can't blame them because it is you who have led them to that failure. Even if you like, you can argue it and say, oh, you did all your best. But, well, your best was not enough. Do you agree with me? Who has a different thought? Let me see. Who has a different thought? If your team wins, it's a team win, right? Everybody is praised. But If your team, the team that you lead, if they fail, so you take the fall. Who agrees with that? Or you have a different opinion, or you share with us? And also my boss that would say, oh, if you have a bad team, then you're a bad leader. Do you agree with that? Oh, yeah, now someone please tell me. You
I
can
agree
unmute
with
and
you.
speak. Aha, okay. Okay. Yeah, so that's why if you're choosing who is going to be if you're choosing whom to delegate to, you have to shine your eyes. You have to make sure that this person, can represent you. You have trained this person, and then be willing to take the fall if anything goes wrong. You don't need to, you don't need to blame. You don't need to pass blames. And one of the things that I would do is, okay, so if my team fails and probably we are in a management meeting, and then for some reasons we had to have some of the subordinates on the call, and then because they needed to answer to one or two things, when there is a backlash, right? So I will speak and take the responsibility of the failures, not the team. At the end of the day, after the whole conversation, then I would go back to the team. Where did we get it wrong? What really happened? Then they can tell that this is what happened, this is what happened, and then we've learned from it, and then we move ahead and make sure it doesn't repeat itself. Okay, so effective delegation, let me see, I have it, there's a chart in summary, in the word of everything, what is that? Everything rises and falls. I agree with you. Yes, Mr. Rick. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So yeah. So effective delegation empowers employees and develops their skills. Okay. But managers must balance trust with oversight to ensure accountability. Apt. This is very profound, right? Okay. Now let's look at span of control, the narrow versus the wide. Now, span of control refers to how many employees report directly to one
Hello,
manager.
ma'am.
Yes, please. Is it break time?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me finish this slide and then we can go on our break. Okay. So, span of control refers to how many employees report directly to one manager. Now, this choice dramatically impacts how organizations operate. So if for a narrow span, it means few direct reports per manager. So that means you have more layers in the organization, close supervision and high control, slower decision making, more effective, or more managers are needed, more expensive because more managers are needed, and less employees autonomy. Why the wide span? You have many direct reports per manager. This is where you have a flattened organizational structure, less oversight, faster decision-making, lower cost, and high job satisfaction through autonomy. So there is no one right answer, actually. It depends on the work being done and the employee's skill level. Okay, so this is the difference between a narrow span and a wide span. Okay, you have the few direct their reports to one manager, and then many direct their reports to one manager. So you just these are the difference between both. So we'll go on our break now. Mercy, when are we coming back? Let me see.
We'll be back at exactly 12:30.
Okay, 12:30.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you then at 12:30, and let us round up the session. Okay, so enjoy your short break, and please be back on time. Thank you. Where are the rest of us? Okay. All right, so we are going to continue from where we stopped. So we had finished discussing the span of control. Okay, so let's look at factors that influence span of control, right? What determines whether a manager can effectively supervise 5 people or 50? It all depends largely on the complexity of the work. That is very true. Okay, so one of the factors, okay, we have simple and repetitive tasks. All right, wide span works well, right? You see, when employees perform identical, straightforward tasks like the assembly line work or data entry, one major manager can effectively oversee a large number of people, sometimes 30, 50, or even more. And why is that? Because the work is predictable. Okay, so that could affect, influence this span of control. But for complex and varied tasks, when employees do complex, dissimilar work, like, in research, scientists, software architects, or strategic consultants, managers can only effectively supervise a small number, let's say 5 to 8. And why? Because work requires frequent consultation, customized guidance, and significant manager involvement in problem solving. So what kind of work that needs to be done would actually determine what kind of approach that will be used or implemented in the process of controlling the task or the work itself. All right, so yeah, so having discussed this, okay, we started before the break, right? So the key takeaway in this session is that structures define relationship. Hierarchy provides clarity. We discussed that because because of the management pyramid, we talked about the top, middle, and supervisory levels or categories of the pyramid creates clear chains of command through innovative, though innovative companies like Morningstar prove alternative exits, like, when we saw the Morningstar company that decided that there will be no manager, everybody, they are all colleagues and not staff and all that, right? So, but hierarchy provides clarity. Then we looked at unity of command, why it matters. We looked at delegation powers performance, where we talked about effective delegation of authority,
Please, can anyone still hear her? I think we've lost her. Please, let's be patient while we try to get her back on the call. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so sorry about that. I can't explain why my file off. All right, so let's continue. Where were we? Okay. Okay, so we had talked about decentralized and the system, structural system, but I had to bring it back here because now we're going to look at decision-making power in the centralized system and in this decentralized system. Now, all the important decisions happen at the top when it comes to centralized system. We know that, right? So think of a certain, think of it like a captain steering a ship. One person controls the direction. Now, the good thing about it is that leadership has a complete view of the business and can control spending, can control spending tightly and can reduce costs. But the challenge is that employees do not get to develop their skills in decision making. So I emphasized earlier where, okay, every team member looks up to the line manager or looks up to the manager to share the responsibilities and tell them what to do instead of them figuring it out themselves, developing their skills, developing their mindset to get a solution or get the work done. That is a challenge with the centralized decision-making system within an organization. Why the decentralized one? Decision-making power is shared with people throughout the organization. So it's like having multiple team captains who can make quick calls during the game, you see, right? So the good thing about this is that decision happens very fast. Employees are more innovative and satisfied, and the company can be more flexible and responsive. But the challenge is that employees might make expensive mistakes. Communication can get messy, and the team might duplicate work unnecessarily. So it is, there are pros and cons to this, but at the end of the day, the decision lies with the business owner. What kind of decision-making power would you want to use within your organizational structure, depending on what it is you want to achieve? Both are good. Both have their good sides and the bad sides. But then the decision lies with you. Which do you think will favor your organization, having put into consideration all the aspects of the business? Which do you think will favor your organization? Okay, so for aspiring business owners, it is to put this into consideration as you think of, establishing your own business. And for those who are existing business owners, yes, there is nothing wrong with, looking inward, trying to see if you would re-engineer the structure within the business and see if you would need to make some changes or you would need to continue running with what you have if it's favored you and still favoring you. So now let's look at what means how many people a manager can supervise. Very important. There are some organizations where, a manager has a whole lot that reports to him and he is overwhelmed. She is overwhelmed. And then you see that because she's overwhelmed, there is no work-life balance, which is very key to optimal productivity when it comes to delivering the business objective. If there is no proper work-life balance, then every other thing can be affected. The manager could become very repulsive. The manager can become very easily agitated because he or she is always overwhelmed. So what determines how many people a manager can supervise? One is, how complex is the task? Simple repetitive tasks mean one manager can supervise more people, as simple as that. Then the other factor is the workers. If everyone works in one office, a manager can oversee more people. But if the team is spread across different cities and countries, obviously they need more managers. That's very simple to understand, right? And then, can the manager delegate? So the manager who is good at trusting others with responsibilities can supervise more people. So those who want to control everything needs fewer direct reports. So if a manager can actually delegate, and of course, before the manager delegates, he must have tried out the team to know that, okay, if I give you a responsibility or I delegate the responsibility to you, you can deliver, and then he delegates. Okay, so a manager who is good at trusting others with responsibilities can supervise more people. Okay, and then we also have how much interaction is needed. So jobs require constant feedback, collaboration, and communication. Okay, jobs that require constant feedback, collaboration, and communication would need a smaller team, right? And independent work allows for larger teams. So if within the organization you have teams that are independent and they are very functional, then you need lesser number of managers, right? So, and then lastly, how skilled are the employees? Highly skilled, motivated workers need less supervision because they know what to do. They are well skilled and they are well motivated. So managers can handle more people if you have highly skilled and highly motivated workers. So less experienced workers obviously need more guidance and smaller teams as well. So these are what determines how many people manage. So before you start saying, okay, this manager would supervise 30 people working in this department, you need to know what kind of people make up the team before you would decide how many persons this manager can actually supervise within the organization. Because at the end of the day, you want productivity, you want an effective team. So if you don't put these things in, if you don't look into these things and you just decide that, okay, you know what, you want to cut costs, you don't want to have many managers. And so for that reason, you, manager A, you would oversee these 20 staff. You, manager B, you will oversee department A, B, C, and D. They will all report to you because you just want to have maybe 3 managers. And then they are overwhelmed. And when they are overwhelmed, they cannot function. So your aim and objective, your goal for the business would end up suffering. Right. So it's important to put this into key consideration. So now, when should companies share decision-making power? So first, you need to look at if the company is really big. So giant corporations like ExxonMobil or Ford that have thousands of employees. So it is actually practically impossible for a few executives to make decisions. So they need to empower managers throughout the organizations. Throughout the organization, right? So also, does the industry move fast? Okay. If in a rapid field or in rapid field, changing field, like the technology companies or industry, the fashion and all that, the business is very dynamic. Okay. It needs quicker response. All right. So decentralization allows local managers to make decisions faster without waiting for approval from the top. Okay, so this is one of the things you have to look at to understand why companies share decision-making powers. Because one is, if the company is very big. 2 is that we are in a very fast-moving business. So we need decision-making to be fast and not delayed. Now, another is that leaders want to share control. Okay, so some managers are comfortable letting others make decisions and don't feel threatened by
Please, everyone, we really apologize for the fluctuation today. Please, let's be patient while we try to get her back. Thank you.
Okay, so I just had to use another Wi-Fi. I mean, MiFi rather, because the MTN is now giving me a challenge. So I've just switched to Airtel. Okay, so sorry about that. We are actually gradually coming to the end of the session. So where were we? Okay, here. Okay, please let me know if I am audible and you can see my screen. Mercy?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay. So we were discussing why, when should companies share decision-making power? Now, if the employees are ready, then why not? Why not share the decision-making power? When workers have the skills, experience, and willingness to take on more responsibility, then decentralization can unlock their potential and improve job satisfaction. That is very correct, right? So if you have a ready-to-work staff, you know, it's as a manager, it's very easy for you to spot and to tell who are those staff that are ready to work. In every organization, there are those, you know, those staff. I mean, those of us who are managers, who own businesses on this call, right? You even work in organizations. You can actually, if they ask you who are those staff that you know that are ready to work, you can easily point them out, right? And you also know those who they only work when you ask them to work, and you know those ones who are ready, whether you ask them to work or not, they figure it out already. They are ready to deliver. So we have that mix in organizations, right? So when you have employees who are ready to work, why not delegate decision-making power, right? And then operations are spread out. Companies like, you know, the Nordstorm, right? With locations worldwide, they need local managers who understand their markets and can respond to regional differences. So when you have this, why not delegate decision-making powers across regions so they can actually take fast decisions that, you know, would push the business forward and get things done without having to wait for the top management to take decision and then cascade it, and that takes a longer time. So these are the things you should look at, or the areas you should look at before you consider the sharing decision-making powers. And if you have these in place, why not? Why not share decision-making powers? Okay, so now let's look at the roadmap to understanding organizational design. I mean, we've already looked at we've already discussed organizational design. We've discussed mechanistic and organic structure. We've discussed key factors that influence your choice. So we're going to look at some real-world applications as we go down the slide right now. The manager's challenge in choosing the right structure. Now imagine that you are organizing a group project. Do you assign everyone specific roles and tasks, or do you let people figure out what needs to be done as they go? So companies face this same question on a much larger scale. So choosing the right organizational structure is critical because what works brilliantly for one company might fail miserable for another. You know why? Because their business goals are different. Because the aims and objectives of the business are different. So that's why you don't have to look at what others are doing. Look at your business goals and objectives, and then choose what would work for you. So choosing the right organizational structure is critical because what works brilliantly for one company might fail for another. So a startup needs different organizations than a Fortune 500 company. A tech company needs something different than a manufacturing plant. Okay, so the key questions that leaders must ask themselves is, who gets to make important decisions? So when setting up a structure for your business, you have to ask yourself these questions. As the owner, as the business owner, as the manager of the business, who gets to make the most important decision? How much control should we keep at the top? Putting into consideration different aspects of the business, external influence, internal influence, and all that. Who should control, how much control should we keep at the top? What factors should guide our choices? And when should we change our structure? So maybe you run for 10 years and you're observing, the environment, the changing times and all that. And then you can decide that, okay, maybe every 5 years, we have to look at our structure, we have to change. These are 4 key questions that leaders must ask themselves and must answer before choosing the right structure for their business. Okay, so we've looked at this, right? We've looked at this, so we will quickly move on to the next. Now, influences on organizational choice, right? What influences the choice of the organizational structure that a company would adopt? Company size. So small businesses tend to be more organic because communication is easier, everyone knows each other, the people naturally helps when needed. Large companies tend to become more mechanistic because you need systems, you need procedures, you need clear rules to coordinate thousands of people. So company size is one of the things that influences the choice of business organizational structure. And then the business strategy. If it is innovation focused, then your goal is, which means your goal is to create new products and be creative, then you need an organic flexibility, right? But if you're cost control focused, that is, if your goal is efficiency and low price, then you need the mechanistic discipline. And then, of course, you put into consideration the environment, the external environment, because we have dynamic environments. So in fast-changing industries like the tech, obviously, they need organic structure to adapt quickly, right? And then stable environments, which talks about predictive industries like those in the utility, they can use mechanistic efficiency. I mean, we've pointed out a few of these things. The fact that tech industries, they are more, they use the organic structured approach compared to the mechanistic approach, right? So these are factors that influence what kind of organizational structure that a business should go for. You look at the company size, you look at the business strategy, you look at the external environment. So your strategy must match your structure. Like we've said already, you don't have to look at what others are doing. before choosing your structure. Look at what your business, what are your the objectives of your business, and then you choose the structure that works for you. Okay, so many companies struggle when they try to simultaneously innovate and cut costs. And these goals require opposite structures, right? Creating real organizational tension, you see. So you have to put into consideration all the areas that we've looked at, right? Before you choose what kind of structure works for you. So your strategies must match with your structure. No one else can decide it for you. As a business owner or as a potential business owner, you know exactly, you know, for an entrepreneur, a business owner, you already have the end. You know exactly the problem you want to solve before you start creating that solution that you want to dish out, right? So you also know exactly what kind of structure you want to operate. You have to think it out and then, you know, put it in order so that your business, when you establish it, everything runs smoothly without glitches. Of course, you might have challenges here and there, obviously, but then because you have a good structure, you'll be able to scale through the challenges. All right. So let's look at how size and environment impact your structure. Two additional factors play critical roles in determining whether your organization should lead mechanistic or organic structure. So understanding this help to explain why companies evolve their structures as they grow. Now let's look at the impact of company size, right? We looked at small corporations and large corporations. So when you have only like 20 to 50 employees, everyone can communicate directly. So the CEO knows everybody's name. People naturally pitch in wherever help is needed. So formal procedures feel, you know, necessary because they slow things down, right? And then larger companies that operate mechanistic system, once you hit 100 or even 1,000 employees, then informal coordination becomes impossible. You need a clear job description. You need formal communication channels and a standardized procedure, because without structure, oh yes, chaos reigns. Chaos is inevitable. So the moment the business starts to grow, okay, then you need to start looking at restructuring, re-engineering the process, okay, for you to be able to keep being in business without chaos, okay? Now, the impact of the external environment. We've looked at, in the previous slide, we looked at the dynamic or complex environment, and now we have introduced the stable, predictive environment. Now, industries like technology, fashion, like we saw in the previous slide, or even social media, they change rapidly. So customers' preference shifts quickly, and so competitors launch new products constantly. And that is why companies need flexible structures that can pivot fast and empower employees to respond to changes immediately. So if you're operating with a rigid system, and then as time goes on, especially coming to this very time, there is need for you to pay attention to the external environment and know when to re-engineer your organizational structure to be able to fit in the current time and be able to still deliver your product or service. Okay, then other external factor could be a stable, predictive environment. Okay, and in that case, you can use the mechanistics. So industries like the utilities, the insurance, the basic manufacturing companies, they operate in relatively stable condition compared to, you know, the tech, the fashion changes. You know, today it is it Palazzo now? And then tomorrow it could be something else. So it's very dynamic, right? Today it was formerly IT, now it's AI, right? So everything is changing so fast, but in a stable and predictive environment, like the insurance, you know, is the same, what's it called? The same guide, the same policies that they have to comply with, you know, and all that. So customers' needs are well understood. Competition follows predictive pattern. So these companies benefit from efficient, standardized, mechanistic structure. So if your business, if your intended business is to establish an insurance company, you may not be looking at the organic way of structuring your business, you might be considering the mechanistic way, because policies remain the same for a very long time. Government policies around insurance remain the same for a very long time. So there is a streamlined guide as to how insurance companies work. So you may not be paying attention to the organic way of structured business. You might be looking at the mechanistic way. So these are the things you need to put into consideration, right? Okay, so let's look at some real world example. I've put here Disney and Microsoft, right? So for Disney, Disney acquired the Pixar. So let's look at this. When Disney bought Pixar, business analysts were worried about a major structural clash. Disney was a massive mechanistic entertainment empire with strict procedures and hierarchical control. And Pixar was, a small organic studio where creative teams had freedom to experiment and collaborate. Now, the concern when Disney bought Pixar is that, would Disney's rigid corporate structure crush Pixar's creative culture? Would all the rules, procedures, and bureaucracy slow down the very innovation that made Pixar special? So the lesson was that when big mechanistic companies acquire small organic ones, they must be very careful about the integration process, because forcing the smaller company to adopt a larger company structure can destroy the very qualities that made them very valuable. Okay, so this is an example where Disney bought Pixar, and then you see the concern, but the thing is that eventually they were able to coexist, and they thrived. All right, so we look at also Microsoft, right? So Microsoft's transformation. You see, when Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft, he faced a huge challenge because Microsoft had been organized as a mechanistic software developer for decades. Now he wanted to transform it into a cloud service company while simultaneously encouraging more innovation and cost reduction. So the problem at the time was that these goals conflict. You see, innovation needs organic flexibility, but cost cutting needs mechanistic efficiency. And also Microsoft traditional structure had created silos where departments didn't collaborate. So the solution was that Nadella worked to break down barriers between departments, encourage cross-functional collaboration, and gave teams more autonomy, all organic characteristics, while maintaining some mechanistic efficiency in operation. You see, so he knew what he wanted, he studied it, and then he's able to know, okay, some of the mechanistic approach we can still maintain, but the others we can go organic. So that's why I said earlier that you need to pay attention to what you want and then decide what works for you. So what works for company A may not work for you because the business goals are different. So the lesson was that even large mechanistic companies can incorporate organic elements, but it requires committed leadership and cultural change. Okay, so I hope that that made sense. Okay, so now let's look at the hidden power of informal networks. Remember, we talked about informal networks earlier. Informal networks are those ones that, developed as a result of the relationship within the organization. I mean, relationship while working within the organization. So they just develop on their own. So what are the hidden powers of informal networks? Okay, yeah, I've talked about what informal network is, right? So first of all, let's look at beyond the charts. So the organizational chart shows official reporting relationship, right? Everybody knows that. But it doesn't show, it doesn't show that Sarah in the accounting always helps the marketing team with budget questions. So a relationship is being formed, and there's a line of communication between Sarah, who is in the accounting, and the marketing team. So that is not captured in the organizational flow, but it's happening. Okay, or that Tom in IT is friend with the CEO and influences major tech decisions. The organizational chart does not show that. But this is an informal organization that has been formed as a result of, working together in the organization. Then there's also network of connections. So the informal organization is the web of relationship based on friendship, shared interests, and blah, 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 blah. So these connections don't appear on any official document as well. And then diverse relationships. So these relationships can exist between people at different levels, right? And then even outside normal chains of command, they might be work-related or based on personal commonalities like hobbies and backgrounds and all that. So you have to think about your own workspace or your school or wherever it is. Who do you actually go to when you need help or information? Is it often not your official? It's often not your official supervisor. So sometimes some people will boycott. They probably they don't. Some people might not, have the courage to actually approach their line managers to ask some basic questions, which is not supposed to be, by the way. You're supposed to. Every staff of organization is supposed to be able to approach their line managers, but some line managers actually I've made it in such a way that it's difficult to approach them. And when that happens, that's what encourages informal organization within the organization. So they would prefer to go to someone else to seek clarity, someone else to get information from, instead of the actual person who is the line manager, as the case may be, right? So think about your own workplace or school. Who do you actually go to when you need help or information? Sometimes it is often not your supervisor. It is a person who is helpful, okay, knowledgeable and easy to approach. And that is the informal organization in action. I remember one of my sisters, she works at the bank, right? And then sometimes when she comes home, she would say, you know what, our desk lead, so they have theirs is desk lead, not line manager now. Our desk lead does not know how to use these applications that we use. If you go and ask her to guide you, maybe there's a challenge and you go and ask her to guide you, be rest assured that she will tell you the wrong app to use, and then you get into trouble. And when you get into trouble, you face it alone. That's the kind of desk lead that exists. So now they have developed, or they have found out who in their team has better understanding of the use of the applications. So whenever they have issues, instead of going to the desk lead, they go to this person. So what has happened? An informal organization has been formed within the organization. And now that informal organization, even the lead of the informal organization is not recognized in the hierarchy of things, but he or she is the one who is getting these people function. Okay, so there are advantages of having, informal organization within the organization, because at the end of the day, it could actually be to the benefit of the organization. Now, that team lead who is inefficient, the top management does not know that that team lead is inefficient. So it is the efficiency of the informal organization that is helping that department to function, which is to the benefit of the organization. So you see, there is a benefit that an organization can derive from the informal organization that has formed within the organization. I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right. So let's look at 5 important functions of informal networks or informal organization, whatever you call it, right? So it provides friendship and social connection, obviously, from the examples that I've discussed, right? Then it improves information flow, right? So the desk lead does not know how to use the apps, does not know the right app to, advise to be used to solve a certain problem. But the leader of the informal network knows and can tell what to do, which to use. I mean, that's information flow. And it's very effective because there is an informal network that has been created and is helping the business, right? Then it offers status and recognition. So the informal organization gives you a job title, but informal network determines your real reputation. Absolutely. You see? So being known as the person everyone goes to for help or a rising star provides recognition that official titles don't capture. You see? And it helps new employees learn the ropes, obviously. So when a new employee comes in, do you think the rest of the team would, what do you think the rest of the team would advise him if he needs help? Of course, don't go to the desk lead, go to Mayowa, right? He will guide you rightly. And so you see, he learns how to, navigate within the team and knows that, oh, okay, the desk lead is not the right person to approach. So that informal network helps new employees learn the ropes and then spreads information rapidly, yes? So the desk lead cannot give you the right information, but the leader, in quote, the leader of the informal network can actually spread better information, better guide compared to the actual recognized team lead or desk lead. So these are the 5 basic important functions of informal networks. And I mean, if all things being equal, in a healthy work environment, informal networks are actually advantageous. But in a toxic work environment, informal networks, when they connive, it is dangerous. Okay, but in a healthy work environment is actually advantageous to the organization. Okay, so let's look at this, right? A workplace survey revealed something shocking. That's 47% of employees said they would trust information from the grapevine, which is the informal network, over a message from the company leadership, while only 42 said they would trust senior leaders. And so this means that the informal network has become more credible than the official communications in many organizations. And this, my friends, this is a wake-up call for managers. This is a wake-up call for managers. So if people tend to trust information from the informal network compared to the number that trust the senior leaders, then this is a wake-up call for managers. And why does this matter? Because if employees trust the informal network more than the official announcement, then managers must either improve official communication or find ways to ensure that there is accurate information flow through what? The informal channel. So that person whom everybody goes to, you, the manager, might as well be friendly with that person because everybody tends to listen to what comes from that person. So you can as well maximize that when there are information to be passed across, you liaise or you share it with the informal network leader, okay, to be able to cascade, because now they listen to the informal leader than they listen to the actual recognized leader. But that's not a good thing. It is important that as a manager, okay, as a manager, you are true to your words. You are able to be that manager that you are expected to be. You should be able to give support when needed. You should be able to be accountable. You should be able to be a good manager. I mean, in one of our summer programs, right? We have a topic on leadership, which is very important. If we have ethical leaders, you see that even when you have informal network, it still doesn't take away the fact that people trust the leadership. People trust information coming from the manager than they trust the information from the informal network. Okay, so it's actually important that managers are actually managers indeed. Okay, so let's look at how to work with the informal organization, right? Rather than fighting the informal organization or pretending that it doesn't exist, smart managers should learn how to work with the informal organization. And here is how to make the informal network an asset rather than a problem. You have to recognize that it is a valuable tool. So stop viewing the informal organization as a threat or a nuisance. Instead, see it as a complementary system that can help you achieve organizational goals. Do you get that? Okay. And then you have to identify and involve informal leaders. So for every workplace has people who aren't managers but have significant influence. And they are the ones that people naturally turn to for advice or information or what have you. So bring these informal leaders into important conversations and decision-making process when appropriate. Okay, when appropriate is important, not in all discussions, because there are some top-level discussions that, you know, is meant for the top-level managers. But when appropriate, always bring them in, okay, because they are important to the organization. And then ensure accurate information flow. So when informal leaders have correct information, then they can share correct information throughout the informal network. Okay, and so this creates a win-win, a win-win. So the informal leader feels valued and included, while the organization benefits from accurate information spreading through that through the informal network. So the key principle is that you can't control the informal organization, but you can influence it by being transparent, by building trust, by keeping people informed, because fighting it only makes it more powerful and potentially more negative. I hope that's very clear. I mean, this is a fact, right? So let's look at how organizations are evolving. Okay, the business world today never stops changing. We know that. So, and neither do organizational structures. It has to keep changing. So let's go and explore the key trends in shaping how modern companies organize themselves. Okay. So, where is this? Let me remove this from here. Okay, so as we look ahead, companies are fundamentally rethinking how they organize, because the future belongs to organizations that can balance structure with flexibility. Okay, efficiency with innovation, and control with empowerment. So if you don't continuously, you know, re-engineer your process, what happens? You go extinct. Okay, so now, if you continuously re-engineer your organization structure, then you can actually fit into the dynamic nature of today's business landscape. So let's look at increased flexibility. Companies are moving away from rigid structure towards more adaptable models. This is the future of business organizations, okay? There is increased flexibility, and so companies are moving away from that rigid, wait, let us get the approval of the CEO, the approval of the chairman, before we implement. The moment you keep waiting and it's dragging days, right? And you keep waiting, other organizations are moving fast and filling the gap. Before you get your approval and come to act, you have lost the business, okay? Then flatter hierarchy. Many organizations are reducing the management layers, pushing decision-making down, and empowering employees to at all levels to take ownership. So that's why these days you hear line managers of this. So in a particular department, in one department, you can have more than one line manager in one department, because now the tasks are different, but they have silos, and then people are able to quickly take decisions to keep moving the business forward, right? So there are flatter hierarchies. And then talk about technology integration. So digital tools are enabling new organizational forms, allowing global teams to collaborate seamlessly and reduce the need for traditional geographic-based structures. So the key takeaway here is that there is no perfect organizational structure that works for everyone. The best structure is the one that fits your organization's size, strategy, industry, and culture. So as these factors change, your structure should also do what? Evolve too. So stay flexible, pay attention to both the formal and informal organization, and never stop asking, is our structure still serving the goal? So as long as you keep asking these questions, you would know when to re-engineer and restructure your organization or when not to.
Okay. So re-engineering for the future. Okay, it is important to throw out old rules. Many businesses follow outdated methods just because that's how we have it. We have always have it done. So, but re-engineering challenges these assumptions and questions every process. This is no longer the time to say, okay, yeah, when this company was established by our father, because maybe now the one who is at the helm of affairs inherited the business, okay, and decides to run with the same structure that the father who started the business run it. And so let's keep it this way. This is how my father ran it, and I choose to follow that because it worked for him and brought the business to where it is today. Oga, times have changed, okay? So you need to look at some old rules and throw them away and come up with new rules that would help this business stand the test of time in this present time, okay? And then achieve real result. The goal is dramatic improvement in cost saving, product quality, customer satisfaction, and speed. So we are talking game-changing results, not incremental gains. So if you really want to, you really want to re-engineer the future of your business, then throw out old rules and then look for the best ways to achieve real results and not just incremental goals. Okay, so today we have most business have gone virtual. Okay, so let's look at the virtual corporation, right? Imagine a company that doesn't own everything it needs. Instead, it partners with other businesses, each bringing their special skills to the table. And that's the virtual corporation, a network of independent companies working together like one super team. Some organizations that they work with could be more of virtual. So your business is a physical business, but the people you partner with are people who are virtually connected to you and they get the work delivered. Okay, so let's look at the rise of the virtual corporation. A virtual corporation is a network of independent companies connected by technology. You see, so they share skills, they split costs, they reach market together that they couldn't reach alone. So think of it as a business version of the Avengers. So different heroes with unique powers teaming up together. So they are connected by technology. Okay, there is flexible partnership. And because they have come together, it means that each partner is bringing in their A game in what they do best. So one handles manufacturing, the other handles marketing, the other handles design, and everybody is a specialist. So you see, you have the best of everything in one team, and that's the power of cooperation. And then it's built on trust. So since partners depend on each other, trust becomes essential because strong relationship develops as companies prove they are reliable collaborators. So these are the advantage and the power of cooperation, right? Okay, so that brings us to virtual teams. Okay, technology has made it possible to build teams without everyone being in the same office or in the same space, or even in the same continent, right? There are thousands, if not millions, of virtual workers today. A lot of people in Nigeria are working for US-based companies, and they're doing it virtually. Okay, so virtual work team brings together the best people for a project, regardless of where they live, and no more limiting your talent pool to people within driving distance, right? When it used to be, before the advent of COVID, everybody goes to the office every day. All your staff, you want them in the same, especially in this part of the world, right? You want them in the same office. But after COVID, everybody discovered that actually we can do our work from anywhere and maybe come to the office twice or 3 times a week, So virtual teams helps to save time and money. So no daily commutes to the office. So people work from wherever they are. And then you skip relocation. Some companies, when you are hired in, let's say you're hired in Lagos, and you're to deliver a job, probably you are to design and deliver a design to a company in Abuja, right? They have to relocate you to Abuja to be able to come to the office there and be there to work and deliver the design. But now that we have a virtual system, you can still remain in your Lagos office or Lagos location, collaborate with the ones in Abuja, get all your meetings done, get your design done, send, check, back and forth until you have the final design. So you skip the relocation, the cost of relocation. So workers stay where they are, what they want to live and still deliver. And then there's access to top talent because now there's a global pool for talent. Anybody can be hired anywhere. So you find the perfect person for the job anywhere in the world, not just within your city. So that's what, these are what virtual teams has brought to us. Saving time and money, skipping relocation, and of course, access to top talent. Okay, so let's look at outsourcing trends. So outsourcing obviously is when a company hires a business to handle certain tasks instead of doing it themselves in-house, right? So this outsourcing beyond cost reduction. Outsourcing used to be mainly about saving money on basic tasks like, processing paychecks and all, but today it is strategic. No, companies today outsource different arms of their business and even up down to research and development, okay? And so before you do your outsourcing, it is important to first of all define the problem. Know exactly what you are trying to solve. Be crystal clear about the business challenge before considering outsourcing. And then you must have explored all the options. Don't just jump straight to, oh, let's outsource it. No, you have to brainstorm every possible solution and evaluate which makes the most sense. And then after that, you have to treat vendors, all the vendors that you get, you have to treat them as strategic partners. Now, there is something for those who are conversant with ISO standards, right? Let's take ISO 9001, for example, which is quality management system. Now, that framework requires you that for every vendor that you have, first of all, you need to have a signed MOU with the vendor. Now, before the MOU is signed, you must have gone to the business outlet of the vendor. You must have checked the credibility of the vendor. Is he credible? Possibly is the business registered and all that before you sign the MOU. And by the time you sign the MOU, it's not just a vendor now. He is a strategic partner with your organization. So you can trust that whatever he delivers, if it is furniture, if it is gadgets, laptops, and what have you, they are of quality. So they are not just vendors now, they are partnerships. I mean, they are partners rather. They are into partnership with your organization. So treat vendors as strategic partners, not just hired help, because strong relationship leads to better outcomes for everyone. Okay, you know that when you sign an MOU, when someone appends an MOU, the MOU has terms and conditions that has to be fulfilled. And also, what happens if you don't fulfill these? So that's spelled out in the terms and conditions. So if you have a signed MOU, the guy who delivers your laptops would make sure he gives you good laptops that will not give problems because he had signed something with you. You see? So that's the good part of having to sign an MOU, and 9001 requires that, and it helps you structure your business. Please give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, please. Okay, so I needed to ask someone to help me put on my generator because the light had gone off. All right. Okay, so yes, so they are actually, they become your partners, right? And you have to treat them as partners. And because they signed the MOU with you, they would be very conscious of what kind of furniture they deliver to you, what kind of gadget they deliver to you. And it's actually the best. So you don't just go to the roadside and, go walk into a shop and then tell them you want to buy a laptop, you give the specifications and they just sell something to you. And in the next 2 weeks, the keyboard is not working, the speaker is not working. And you come back and well, it was working when we gave it to you, because there's no signed MOU, right? So they are not held accountable for anything. So it's actually a good thing. And that's one of the things that ISO 9001 helps you to, put in place in your business for those who understand what ISO 9001 is. And for those who don't, well, this is one of the things that it helps your business to, this is how it helps to also structure your business, amongst other things. And of course, it's important to stay connected. Regular communication builds trust and ensures flexibility when unexpected challenges rise. Okay, so structuring for global mergers, right? When two massive companies combine across international borders, organizing everything into one cohesive business becomes incredibly complex, right? So it's like merging two different schools with their own traditions, rules, and ways of doing things. And this one, we're not just saying mergers, maybe banks within Nigeria. We're talking about global mergers. So it could be a company in Nigeria is merging with a company in the UK. That's a global merger, and it's a serious thing. Okay, so navigating global mergers, right? Mega mergers between global companies create enormous challenges. So you're not just combining two businesses, you are blending different corporate cultures, leadership styles, and the entire way of operation. So success requires careful attention to both the business side and the human side of the equation. Okay, so you're looking at uniting different cultures. You need to keep an open communication at all times. You need to design the leadership when you're going into global mergers, right? You need to redesign the leadership. Who is in charge of what? Creating a clear leadership structure prevents confusion and power tussle in the new organization, because these are two different organizations coming together from two different continents or two different countries. So it is important that the leadership is well designed to avoid or prevent confusion and power tussle. Okay, and then there has to be a shared vision. So the new organization needs its own identity. No longer, oh, Diamond Bank merged with Access Bank. Oh, this is how we used to do it in Diamond Bank. Or this is how we do it in Access Bank. No, this new bank now would have to create its own shared vision that would, accommodate both parties. And that vision now becomes the single vision that both parties have agreed on, and they can work together with it. So the new organization needs its own identity, a clear vision, mission, and values that everyone can really can rally behind together. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So, yeah, we have actually come to the end of the conversation. I call this a conversation, right? Because I don't like teaching. Actually, it's a sharing of knowledge. And like I said from the beginning, some of you on this call, you have good idea of what we've been saying all along, and you can actually relate. So we have explored how modern businesses are transforming through re-engineering, virtual partnership, strategic outsourcing, and global mergers. So these aren't just buzzwords, they are real strategies that companies use to stay competitive in today's fast-moving world. So remember, the future of business is all about flexibility, strategic partnership, and constantly questioning whether there is a better way to operate. So with this, we've come to the end of our conversation and knowledge sharing today. I think this time I would like to have your questions if you have any. Please feel free to unmute and speak, or you can put that in the chat room as we bring this to a very beautiful close. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions? Any questions? Okay, so
Yes.
I'm assuming, yeah, Omo, please go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. Thank you very much for the teaching. I've been following, like you said, it's a discussion. I've been following it, and it has really been interesting. But I'm so concerned about these informal managers in a workplace,
Informal
because
organization, yes. Yeah, or informal managers, yes, go ahead.
influence when it comes to staff penetration than even the managers themselves. And if you work in a toxic environment, it can cause chaos. And I've seen situations whereby you see some informal managers have more influence than the manager himself. And the manager is that either is diabolic, or he has more ways to harm the informal manager. So in a way like this, in something like this, how can we be able to balance it? Because fine, your manager might not be smart the way you are. You have more competence, but due to the way the country is one, or maybe it's your brother that owns it, or one or two games, they are being given this person the managerial role. So how do we balance it to avoid chaos and for us to have a good working environment as well?
Okay, now this is really very interesting and a huge concern, right? For me, right, I would only give my own perspective, and it's not like it's a fast and hard way of handling such situation, but it's just my thought, right? In such situations, especially where maybe the owner of the business is a brother to that line manager that people don't like, right? There is sometimes there's nothing that you can do about it, right? Because the owner of the business is related to the manager and he has his own reasons for keeping the manager there. It could be that that manager is put there, especially in that scenario where the business owner is a brother to the line manager that is not liked, okay, or that is incompetent. But don't forget that that business owner has a reason for planting the manager there. Whether you like the manager or whether people like the manager or not, he has his reasons and he's getting his reasons why he planted the manager there, right? So in such situation, there might be little or nothing that can be done about it, right? And there's still nothing that can be done about the informal manager, because the informal manager is the person who is effective to the rest of the team as far as the rest of the team is concerned. Okay, and in most cases, this line manager who is not liked knows that he or she is not liked. Like the example I gave of my sister who works in the bank, that desk lead knows that she is not liked and she's ineffective, but she's still there anyways, right? So they know when they are not liked. And that's why they can go, some of them, like you said, might go diabolic and what have you, because now is a power tussle kind of situation. But the truth is that there is nothing in that scenario where the owner owns the business. There's nothing you can do about it. But in a scenario where the owner has no relationship with the line manager and the line manager, is not effective, right? But the informal manager and his team are effective. So in that situation, I would like to ask if there is a possibility, okay, of sending an information to the top management about what is happening in this team. Now, if there is a way of sending the information so that the top management or the higher manager gets to understand and probably do something about it, maybe there will be a transfer, a change of line manager or what have you, if there is opportunity for such, email to be sent or communication to be sent across, then they can maximize that opportunity. But if there is none, because in some cases, if you send such email, somehow your name will not be kept anonymous. So if you jump that gun and send such email to bring some things to the attention of the top management, that this line manager is, somewhat inefficient and all that, your name may not be kept anonymous. And then the line manager gets to know that you or this group of people signed the letter and they sent it to the top management. There's wahala for you. So it's really dicey situation. But what I would say is it is important to study what plays out within that organization and what is the best way. If it's possible to send that email and you're safe, then it's important to send the email so that this can be addressed. But by and large, you cannot fight the informal organization. There is nothing that can be done about it. The informal organization would always be formed. Okay, and it's good for those on the call. It is good that we are good managers so that when the informal organization is formed, it's not antagonizing the actual manager. Rather, the manager will leverage on the power of the informal organization to actually function. So I hope this gave a perspective to your question.
Yes, very well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, any more questions? Any more questions? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so I guess there is no more question, and I want to thank you all for listening and for also sharing your thoughts, asking your questions, and giving your contribution. So thank you very much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Mercy of God over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. I
You're
enjoyed every
welcome.
bit of applause.
You're
Please, a round of
welcome.
applause. We don't have a lot to say. Like I said earlier, test has been ongoing, and the link is still very active. So feel free to, if you have not done it, go ahead and do it, because by next week we are going to deactivate all the links for those tests. All right. And so for this very class, just keep it in mind that you'll be writing the test in the coming week. So the date is going to be announced and the question bank is going to be sent as usual on the group. Okay. I think that is all. The material is to be sent immediately after now, as well as the recording, which we always send on Monday. I think that is all. Please follow us on all of our social media handles as usual. Take LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Whatever is your inquiry, feel free to ask. We are always here to give answers to your inquiries. Thank you so much for standing by since 10 o'clock up until now. And I will say from here a very big thank you, and then do have a very productive and beautiful weekend. We'll see you again in the next class. Bye.